Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you the top stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison LaGrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. Authorities in Egypt detain over 200 pro-Palestinian activists in Cairo ahead of a planned international march aiming to break Israel's blockade of Gaza. China says relations with the Vatican are improving under the new Pope Leo XIV after the first appointment of a Chinese bishop by the Catholic Church, despite long-standing differences between the two sides on the status of Taiwan. Burundi's ruling party wins all 100 seats in the country's parliament. The country's election commission announces days after voting was held in the East African nation amid accusations of irregularities. Britain's economy shrinks by 0.3% in April following a tax hike on UK businesses and record drop in exports to the United States due to President Donald Trump's tariffs. And the Philippines marks its 127th Independence Day. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. calls on people to protect the country's democratic freedoms by fighting fake news and holding public officials accountable. Hello and welcome. We begin with a tragic development from India. A London-bound Air India passenger plane carrying 242 people on board has crashed in Ahmedabad in the western state of Gujarat. The plane took off on the 12th of June at 1:39 p.m. local time and crashed around 5 minutes after takeoff. At least 210 people have been reported dead, and the death toll is likely to increase. The pilot gave a mayday call to the air traffic control. Thereafter, the aircraft gave no response to the calls made by the ATC. The video that you see right now is of the moment the Boeing 787 plane crashed outside the airport perimeter. The aircraft ran into a doctor's hostel where multiple deaths have been reported. Boeing said they were working to gather more information on the crash. Heavy black smoke was seen coming from the crash site. Emergency responders, including police and firefighters, rushed to the crash site and the area was shortly evacuated. Air India confirmed that 242 individuals were on board the ill-fated flight. In addition to 2 pilots and 10 crew members, the passengers included 169 Indian nationals, 53 British nationals, 1 Canadian national, and 7 Portuguese nationals. Relief and rescue efforts are still underway. Rescuers were sifting through the wreckage, carefully picking belongings of the passengers. A green corridor has been established to swiftly transport the injured for urgent medical treatment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi immediately took stock of the situation and has been in touch with ministers and authorities working to assist those affected. Home Minister Amit Shah and Civil Aviation Minister Ram Mohan Naidu are en route to the crash site to oversee the rescue and relief operations. The Civil Aviation Minister said that he was personally monitoring the situation to ensure a swift and coordinated emergency response. Meanwhile, the British government, whose 53 nationals were on board, confirmed that it was working closely with Indian authorities to provide all necessary support. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that he was being regularly updated on the evolving situation. As news of the crash spread, relatives of the passengers rushed to Ahmedabad Civil Hospital, desperate for any information about their loved ones. Visibly distraught families struggled to hold themselves together in the face of this unprecedented tragedy.
1:10 की फ्लाइट थी और जा रही थी लंदन के लंदन जाने से पहले ही क्रैश हो गया प्लेन।
हाँ मेरी शादी था वो अमृतसर थी लंदन जा रही थी। हाँ फिर बस वो 1 घंटे में समाचार आ गया को प्लेन क्रैश हो गया है इसलिए मैं वापस अहमदाबाद से बाहर निकल गया था तो वापस आए सील में आ गया।
The crash did not just hit the lives inside the aircraft, it also affected people inside the doctor's hostel where the plane crashed. Relatives of those in the building also shared their terrifying ordeal.
लड़का है ना वो ब्रेक पड़ा था खाने का तो हॉस्टल में खाने गया था इधर यानी हॉस्टल में ही प्लेन क्रैश हुआ पर मेरे लड़का को कुछ हुआ नहीं बात हुई मेरी पर इसके भाईबंद है ज्यादा हुए तो लोग मर गए ये फिर मेरे लड़का को देखने जाना है अंदर मेरे।
Aviation authorities, rescue teams and government officials remain on high alert as investigations into the cause of this tragic crash begin. For the hundreds of affected families, this is a dark day marked by grief, anxiety and unanswered questions. We will keep bringing you the latest updates as they come in. And let's shift our attention to the rising temperatures and severe heat wave conditions in India. The summer season has just begun and people in North India are already grappling with sweltering heat. The India Meteorological Department, or the IMD, has issued a red alert for severe heat wave conditions across several states. As of today, Delhi, Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan are all under a heat wave red alert. The IMD indicated a feel-like or heat index value of nearly 52 degrees Celsius on Wednesday for the capital Delhi. The IMD also issued an orange alert for heatwave conditions in Jammu and Kashmir, Uttar Pradesh and Himachal Pradesh. According to the IMD norms, a heatwave is declared when the maximum temperature is greater than or equal to 45 degrees Celsius, or when it is 4.5 to 6.4 degrees Celsius above normal. If it crosses this range, it qualifies as a severe heat wave. As India continues to bear the brunt of the heat wave, let's take a look at how extreme heat can cause serious illness and in some cases can even prove to be fatal. Prolonged exposure to heat wave conditions increases the strain on cardiovascular system, elevating the risk of adverse health effects. In severe cases, this can even lead to heart and kidney failure. Long heat waves are also a result of hot nights, and this reduces the body's recovery time, making sleep more difficult. Now, due to this, the body becomes overstressed and more susceptible to overheating. India's National Disaster Management Authority has listed out the following do's and don'ts to protect oneself from the heat wave. Now, here's what you should do. Drink sufficient water and as often as possible, even if not thirsty. Use ORS, homemade drinks like buttermilk, rice water, lemon water, that to help rehydrate the body. Wear lightweight, light-colored, loose and porous cotton clothes. Use protective goggles, umbrella, hat, shoes or slippers while going out into the sun. If you feel faint or ill, see a doctor immediately. Keep animals in the shade and give them plenty of water to drink. Keep your home cool. Use curtains, shutters or sunshade and open windows at night. Use fans, damp clothing and take a bath in cold water frequently. And now let's take a look at the don'ts during a heat wave. Avoid going out in the sun, especially between 12 noon and 3 p.m. Avoid strenuous activities when outside temperatures are high. Avoid alcohol, tea, coffee and carbonated soft drinks which dehydrate the body. Avoid high-protein food and do not eat stale food. Do not leave children or pets in parked vehicles. There are also concerns with regards to the preparedness of the Indian cities in the face of severe heatwave conditions. A recent study has revealed that 9 Indian cities that are home to slightly more than 11% of India's population are most at risk of heat waves and are not well prepared for them over the long term. And these include Bengaluru, Delhi, Faridabad, Gwalior, Kota, Ludhiana, Meerut, Mumbai and Surat. Now, these cities do have immediate responses to heat waves. For instance, they reported short-term emergency measures such as ensuring access to drinking water, changing work schedules and boosting hospital capacity before or during a heat wave. But the Heat Action Plans, or the HAPS, which contain long-term measures, seem to have a weaker effect on shaping heat actions in these cities. They have still not been implemented well. Long-term actions, such as making households or occupational cooling available to the most heat-exposed or developing insurance cover for lost work, are rare. And where long-term actions are taken, they are poorly targeted. Without effective long-term strategies, India is likely to witness a higher number of heat-related deaths. The report also suggests that long-term risk reduction measures will take several years to mature, thus they must be implemented now. As India faces severe heatwave conditions, one thing is clear: the need of the hour is action. And for more on this, we have with us Dr. Akshay Dioras. He is a climate scientist at the University of Reading in the UK. Dr. Dioras, thank you and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight.
Thanks, Alison, for having me on the show.
Now, like I just mentioned, Doctor, the need of the hour is action. What immediate steps can the state and central governments take amid the current heatwave?
I think the best way to protect from heat wave is, one needs to be hydrated, and it's also important to stay away from heat exposure, because if you are not hydrated and if you get exposed to heat, like high temperature, is going to affect the health. I think immediately what the governments need to do now is to they need to provide access to water and cooling facilities, which could be communal in nature in the daytime when people are, forced to go out to work. So people could spend some time in these cool shelters to just relax. And apart from that, if you just keep them, if you just provide a lot of hydration facilities like water and everything, and keep on monitoring health, like, local government agencies can go on and just check whether people are doing well or not. So I think these 3 things are required in the very first instance.
And what, according to you, are the biggest challenges that India, especially its metro cities, face when it comes to tackling extreme heat?
I think if you have to tackle extreme heat, like I said, you need to stay indoor and you need to stay hydrated. But the problem is that we cannot keep people indoor because it's all about bread and butter. If you ask them to stay indoor for the entire day, the question is how will they survive? And the second aspect there, which is also very important, is population density, because like you mentioned in your report, these cities are congested. There is literally lack of proper cooling areas. And if you look at population density in some areas of these cities, it's so high that you have so many people living in such a small space. So there is no way that houses can be cooled at night. And India really struggles on these 2 fronts because we cannot provide employment to these people in other way, like just giving them some money or some compensation so that they can stay indoor and protect themselves from heat. And there is no immediate solution to the high population density, which is just preventing houses to cool down because people just cannot afford air conditioning and cooling facilities as such.
And Doctor, how important is it for countries around the world to set long-term goals for the unprecedented weather events, given their increasing frequency?
I think it's very important because, let me make it very clear that climate change or global warming is not just a myth. It's a clear reality, and we are seeing it happening every day. The impacts of global warming are very clear across different parts of the world. So I think there is a very serious need that politicians and different governments from different countries really start thinking about this seriously in terms of what needs to be done on the short term as well as what needs to be done on the long term. And for the long term, it basically involves preparing the communities from the impact of extreme weather events, which are also on the rise. And extreme weather events could be of different types. You could have extreme heat waves, you could have extreme rainfall in less time. Temperatures, of course, like I said, is another thing. So these things need to be prepared. So I think there's a lot of efforts need to be done so that people can really focus on protecting themselves from these heat waves and high impact weather events.
Yes. And how is climate change inducing freak weather events like these prolonged heat waves?
It's very clear that because of global warming, we are seeing an increase in the intensity and frequency of heat waves across the globe. Now, someone would say that, look, what happened in India in the month of May, India was really cool. I would say that that was an exception. All years cannot be as cool as what we saw in the month of May in India. So India was really lucky on that front. So there's no clear, I would say, denial that, global warming is not doing anything to heat waves. It's just making heat waves more and more severe and more frequent across different parts of the globe.
And how important is it for countries and its leaders across the world to shift attention to climate change?
As I said before, this is a reality, and it's very important that global warming or climate change becomes among the top priorities for different governments, because we don't really have the time to sit down and relax. All these things are going up, like in extreme weather events are going up. And there's a very clear evidence that global warming is intensifying extreme weather events across the globe. So countries need to come together. They need to think seriously about this in terms of mitigation and also in terms of how to really prepare people, be it, for example, weather forecast. Like if extreme weather events are going to happen over the next few days, you need to have really specific warnings for people, and warnings need to translate into actions so that people are able to save their lives whenever an extreme weather event is to happen.
Yes. Doctor, thank you for being with us on First Post Spotlight. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Shifting focus now to Bangladesh, in the quiet corners of a town just 120 kilometers from the capital of Dhaka, where the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore once wove poetry. Rage and not rhyme filled the air this week. Tagore's ancestral home, which now functions as a museum, was battered by a mob that broke glass, splintered doors, and cracked not just heritage, but the subcontinent's literary history as well. All this, reports in the Bangladeshi media say, was done over a parking fee. Reports claim a squabble over motorcycle parking turned into a full-blown vandalism. The site, which stands as a testimony to Bengal's finest literary son, the man whose words form the national anthems of both India and Bangladesh. Bangladesh has sealed off the site and has launched an inquiry, but the questions hang heavy. Was this spontaneous rage, or, as India's ruling BJP insists, a pre-planned attack by radical Islamist groups to hurt cultural symbols that transcend borders? The BJP insists that this was not just vandalism, but a bodily blow to the region's cultural soul, an insult to Tagore's universal philosophy, and in the currently charged arena of India-Bangladesh relations, such wounds cut deep. After all, the Bangladesh house isn't just bricks and wood. It was home to Rabindranath Tagore, who is a literary luminary, beloved on both sides of the Bengali border.
और जो अभी मीडिया के माध्यम से पता चल रहा है, यह जो अटैक हुआ है, यह जो आक्रमण हुआ है गुरुदेव रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर जी के घर पर, यह अटैक जमाते इस्लामी और हिफाजत इस्लाम इन संगठन के लोगों ने किया है। और मीडिया के माध्यम से यह भी मालूम पड़ा है कि यह अटैक एक प्री प्लान्ड अटैक था। 5-6 दिन से इसकी एक योजना बन रही थी कि योजनाबद्ध तरीके से रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर के, जो कि एक बुनियाद हैं, बंगाल के, हमारी सभ्यता के, संस्कृति के एक धरोहर हैं, उनके घर पर हमला किया जाएगा, ताकि एक बड़ा मैसेज वो शायद विश्व को देना चाहते थे.
Across India and Bangladesh, Tagore's influence lingers like the scent of old paper. But for now, his ancestral home in Bangladesh stands closed, broken, waiting, like an old book with torn pages, hoping someone will stitch its heritage back together. Bangladesh's archaeology department promises answers, but how will they repair the deeper damage? And moving on, let's turn our attention to West Asia, where the conflict between Israel and Yemen-based Houthis continues to escalate. A video has recently surfaced showing a Houthi ballistic missile launched from Yemen toward Israel, narrowly missing a civilian aircraft on Tuesday evening, before being intercepted by Israeli air defense systems. The footage shared by the Israeli War Room on social media shows a passenger plane flying close to the area just moments before the missile was intercepted by Israeli air defense systems. The following incident, the Israeli War Room posted on X, condemning the attack by Houthis, whom they referred to as Iranian-backed terrorists. The post said that due to the competence of the Israeli Defense Forces, a mass casualty event has been avoided. The Israeli military confirmed that they had identified the launch of a missile from Yemen toward Israeli territory, activating warning sirens in several areas. The Houthi group, which controls parts of Yemen and is backed by Iran, has claimed responsibility for the missile launch. Houthi military spokesman stated in a video that the group had fired 2 ballistic missiles targeting Israel's main airport.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a qualitative military operation targeting the Lod airport in the occupied Jaffa region, with 2 ballistic missiles, one of which was a hypersonic Palestine II missile and the other a Zulfikar missile. One of the missiles directly struck the Lod airport, and the interception systems failed to stop it. The operation successfully achieved its objective, by the grace of God, forcing millions of occupying Zionists to flee to shelters and halting air traffic at the airport.
This Houthi attack comes just a day after Israeli forces carried out an airstrike on Hodeidah, which is a port city controlled by the Houthis on Yemen's Red Sea coast. Israel's military stated its navy targeted terror targets belonging to the Houthi terrorist regime to prevent the port from being used to transfer weapons. In response to the Israeli attack on Hodeidah port, the Houthis have threatened to target Haifa port.
In response for the aggression in Hodeidah, the Yemeni armed forces are warning all companies and entities to cease operations through the port of Haifa, which has now been designated as a target.
This is not an isolated incident. Israel has launched several attacks on Houthi-held areas in Yemen, including ports and the airport in the capital of Sana'a, since the Houthis began firing missiles and drones after the Gaza war started in October of 2023. The Iran-backed Houthis say they are acting in solidarity with Palestinians. They had paused their attacks during a 2-month Gaza ceasefire that ended in March, but resumed when Israel restarted its military operations in the Gaza Strip. As the war in Gaza rages on, so does the conflict between Israel and Iran-backed Houthis. As West Asia continues to grapple with wars and conflicts, regional tensions will continue to remain high until and unless a truce is reached. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.